Hey guys, today we are going to read the chapter of Class 10 Geography, Resources and Development. Can you identify and name the various items used in making life comfortable in our villages and towns? List the items and name the material used in their making. Everything available in our environment which can be used to satisfy our needs, provided it is technologically accessible, economically feasible, and culturally very acceptable, can be termed as resource. The process of transformation of things available in our environment involves an interactive relationship between nature, technology, and institutions. Human beings interact with nature through technology and create institutions to accelerate their economic development. Do you think that resources are free gift of nature as is assumed by many? They are not. Resources are a function of human activities. Human beings themselves are essential components of resources. They transform material available in our environment into resources and use them. These resources can be classified in the following ways: on the basis of origin, biotic and abiotic; second, on the basis of exhaustibility, renewable and non-renewable; third, on the basis of ownership, individual, community, national and international; fourth, on the basis of status and development, potential, developed stock and resources. Here you can see a chart or figure of classification of resources. We can skip activities and all. Development of resources. Resources are vital for human survival as well as for maintaining the quality of life. It was believed that resources are free gifts of nature. As a result, human beings use them indiscriminately, and this has led to the following major problems: depletion of resources for satisfying the greed of a few individuals. Second, accumulation of resources in few hands, which in turn divided the society into two segments, that is, haves and have-nots, or rich and poor. Indiscriminate exploitation of resources has led to global ecological crises such as global warming, ozone layer depletion, environmental pollution, and land degradation. An equitable distribution of resources has become essential for a sustained quality of life and global peace. If the present trend of resource depletion by a few individuals and countries continue, the future of our planet is in danger. Therefore, resource planning is essential for sustainable existence of all forms of life. Sustainable existence is a component of sustainable development. Sustainable development. Sustainable economic development means development should take place without damaging the environment, and development in the present should not compromise with the needs of the future generations. Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit 1992. In June 1992, more than 100 heads of states met in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil for the first International Earth Summit. The summit was convened for addressing urgent problems of environmental protection and socio-economic development at the global level. The assembled leaders signed the Declaration of Global Climatic Change and Biological Diversity. The Rio Convention endorsed the Global Forest Principles and adopted Agenda 21 for achieving sustainable development in the 21st century. Agenda 21. It is the declaration signed by world leaders in 1992 at the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development (UNCED), which took place at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It aims at achieving global sustainable development. It is an agenda to combat environmental damage, poverty, disease through global cooperation on common interests, mutual needs, and shared responsibilities. One major objective of the Agenda 21 is that every local government should draw its own local Agenda 21. Resource planning. Planning is the widely accepted strategy for judicious use of resources. It has importance in a country like India, which has enormous diversity in the available of resources. There are regions which are rich in certain types of resources but are deficient in some other resources. There are some regions which can be considered self-sufficient in terms of the availability of resources, and there are some regions which have acute shortage of some vital resources. For example, the states of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and Madhya Pradesh are rich in minerals and coal deposits. Arunachal Pradesh has abundance of water resources but lacks in infrastructural development. The state of Rajasthan is very well endowed with solar and wind energy but lacks in water resources. The cold desert of Ladakh is relatively isolated from the rest of the country. It has very rich cultural heritage, but it is deficient in water, infrastructure, and some vital minerals. This calls for balanced resource planning at the national, state, regional, and local levels. Resource planning in India. Resource planning is a complex process which involves identification and inventory of resources across the regions of the country. This involves surveying, mapping, and qualitative and quantitative estimation and measurement of the resources. Second, evolving a planning structure endowed with appropriate technology, skill, and institutional setup for implementing resource development plans. Matching the resource development plans endowed with appropriate technology, skill, and institutional setup for implementing resource development plans. Matching the resource development plans with overall national development plans. India has made concerted efforts for achieving the goals of resource planning right from the first 5 year plan launched after independence. The availability of resources is a necessary condition for the development of any region, but mere availability of resources in the absence of corresponding changes in technology and institution may hinder development. There are many regions in our country that are rich in resources, but these are included in economically backward regions. On the contrary, there are some regions which have a poor resource base, but they are economically developed. Can you name some resource rich but economically backward regions and some resource poor but economically developed regions? Give reasons for such a situation. The history of colonization reveals that rich resources in colonies were the main attractions for the foreign invaders. It was primarily the higher level of technological development of the colonizing countries that helped them to exploit resources of their regions and establish their supremacy over the colonies. Therefore, resources can contribute to development only when they are accompanied by appropriate technological development and institutional changes. India has experienced all this in different phases of colonization. Therefore, in India, development in general and resource development in particular does not only involve the availability of resources but also the technology, quality of human resources, and the historical experiences of the people. Conservation of resources. Resources are vital for any developmental activity, but irrational consumption and overutilization of resources may lead to socio-economic and environmental problems. To overcome these problems, resource conservation at various levels is important. This had been the main concern of the leaders and thinkers in the past. For example, Gandhiji was very apt in voicing his concern about resource conservation in these words. There is enough for everybody's need and not for anybody's greed. He placed the greed and selfish individuals and exploitative nature of modern technology as the root cause for resource depletion at the global level. He was against mass production and wanted to replace it with the production by the masses. At the international level, the Club of Rome advocated resource conservation for the first time in a more systematic way in 1962. Subsequently, in 1974, Gandhian philosophy was once again presented by Schumacher in his book Small is Beautiful. The seminal contribution with respect to resource conservation at the global level was made by the Brundtland Commission Report 1987. This report introduced the concept of sustainable development and advocated it as a means of resource conservation, which was subsequently published in a book entitled Our Common Future. Another significant contribution was made at the Earth Summit at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in 1992. Land resources. We live on land. We perform our economic activities on land and we use it in different ways. Thus, land is a natural resource of utmost importance. It supports natural vegetation, wildlife, human life, economic activities, transport, and communication systems. However, land is an asset of finite magnitude. Therefore, it is important to use the available land for various purposes with careful planning. India has land under a variety of relief features, namely mountain, plateaus, plains, and islands. About 43% of the land area is plain, which provides facilities for agriculture and industry. Mountains account for 30% of the total surface area of the country and ensure perennial flow of some rivers, provide facilities for tourism and ecological aspects. About 27% of the country is the plateau region. It possesses rich reserves of minerals, fossil fuels, and forests. Land utilization. Land resources are used for the following purposes. Forests. Second, land not available for cultivation. Barren and wasteland and land put to non-agricultural uses, example, buildings, roads, factories, etc. Third, other uncultivated land, excluding fallow land, permanent pastures and grazing land, and land under miscellaneous tree crops, groves, not included in next zone area. Third, culturable wasteland, left uncultivated for more than 5 agricultural years. Fallow lands, current fallow, left without cultivation for one or less than one agricultural year. Other than current fallow, left uncultivated for the past 1 to 5 agricultural years. Fifth, next zone area, the physical extent of land on which crops are sown, harvested, is known as net zone area. Area sown more than once in an agricultural year plus net zone area is known as gross crop area. Land use pattern in India. The use of land is determined both by physical factors such as topography, climate, soil types, as well as human factors such as population density, ecology, technological capability, and culture and traditions, etc. Here you can see a figure in which land use categories are shown. Total geographical area of India is 3.28 million square kilometers. Land use data, however, is available only for 93% of the total geographical area because the land use reporting for most of the northeast states except Assam has not been done fully. Moreover, some areas of Jammu and Kashmir occupied by Pakistan and China have also not been surveyed. The land under permanent pasture has also decreased. How are we able to feed our huge cattle population on this pasture land? And what are the consequences of it? Most of the other than the current fallow lands are either of the poor quality or the cost of cultivation of such land is very high. Hence, these land are cultivated once or twice in about 2 or 3 years, and if these are included in the net zone area, then the percentage of NSA in India comes to about 54% of the total reporting area. The pattern of net zone area varies greatly from one state to another. It is over 80% of the total area in Punjab and Haryana and less than 10% in Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Manipur, and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Forest area in the country is far lower than the desired 33% of geographical area, as it was outlined in the National Forest Policy 1952. It was considered essential for maintenance of the ecological balance. The livelihood of millions of people who live on the fringes of these forests depend upon it. A part of the land is termed as wasteland and land put to other non-agricultural uses. Wasteland includes rocky, arid and desert areas, and land put to other non-agricultural uses includes settlements, roads, railways, industry, etc. Continuous use of land over a long period of time without taking appropriate measures to conserve and manage it has resulted in land degradation. This in turn has serious repercussions on society and the environment. So guys, that's all for today. We will see the left out chapter in the next part.